What's up, everyone? This is Pete from Comic Books Transformed, where we talk about comic books that have been adapted into streaming shows and movies. And today, me and my good friend over there, Brian, are going to be discussing Ironheart, the most recent Disney Plus Marvel show. And then, Brian, I just threw the question at you. I don't know if you heard it because we had some technical difficulties, but there's more female-led MCU shows than there are male-led MCU shows, right?
Ooh, yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, you could say WandaVision, all Agatha all along, She-Hulk, Ironheart. What else?
Ms. Marvel,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Echo.
Echo. We probably give a half point for Hawkeye.
Okay.
But yeah, and then for the other one, what is it? We have Loki, we have Moon Knight, we have that other half of Hawkeye.
Yeah, and Falcon and Winter Soldier, you said, right?
Falcon and Winter Soldier, yeah, that's good. Well, yeah, so it's about even, I guess, when you put it that way. It's a little more female-led, I guess.
Yeah, and I think there's something to it. I just watched this YouTube documentary by this guy, Movies with Mikey, and he was talking about the MCU, and he was talking about like basically the direction it's going, what's been happening with it, and he was saying that Disney has essentially balanced themselves out because Disney for a while kind of seemed more feminine or like it was more geared towards girls with all the Disney princesses, the Disney Renaissance in the early 90s with all the like Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and those movies. And now it has Star Wars and Marvel. Do you think there's any validity to what he said there?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah, when I was growing up, like you associated Disney with the Disney princesses. That's what it was. And there wouldn't always be every movie about that. Like you can call out like Lion King or God, I can't think of anything else.
Aladdin.
Else. Aladdin. Aladdin was great. That's probably my favorite. And
Right.
maybe Sword in the Stone, things like that. But ultimately, like you thought of, from the late 80s, early 90s, sort of like Little Mermaid and also Aladdin in a way, Beauty and the Beast, things like that.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because there's like a little bit of an identity crisis because I don't think we've mentioned this on any of our recordings, but I've seen articles and I've seen YouTube videos where they talk about how Disney is actually in a lot of trouble, right? That like financially, and I'm not just talking about like the trolls that are like, go woke, go broke. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like actual financial reports saying that like because they bet so much on streaming and streaming doesn't seem to make money the way they'd wanted it to, they're losing a ton of money, right?
Yeah, I've heard similar things like that, but at the same time, it's like I don't is regular TV working?
Yeah.
Like what scripted shows are lighting up the world and making money? I imagine that most like I think about this angle from video games all the time. Like I like those like big AAA video games. I like those a lot. They put a lot of effort into story and production and all that. I like other types of games too, but the ones that make the most money seem to be these like crappy, like these little gotcha phone games where they're microtransactions and just making you spend all kinds of money. Those are the things that make studios money, and not these big games. So it's like maybe just and is reality TV the equivalent for television production? It's probably a way cheaper to make.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know anymore. And maybe this is our middle age showing, but like I feel like going to the movies, watching shows, that's sort of like a secondary thing now. And that like whenever I talk to a teenager, because I have a side job, I deliver pizzas, I work with teenagers, they don't necessarily talk about watching shows, they talk about seeing things on TikTok, right?
Yes. I believe I was going to say that too, is that I don't think kids watch anything besides like YouTube and TikTok. Like
right.
They watch they watch content creators. That'll be their nostalgia in 20 years.
God.
Remember this streamer? And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's going to be.
Right. I know we're going off on kind of like a little tangent here, but I can kind of segue it into our discussion. I feel like where they went wrong post Endgame, and a lot of it is because of COVID too, is that they like made it to where they had to have content for Disney Plus. They had to have streaming shows, and so they focused on all these characters that if you did have the right script, if you did have the right creatives behind it and the right intentions, I think you could make an awesome movie out of every single character that's been on a Disney Plus show, right?
Yeah.
But it's just the idea of like knocking them out like a factory and getting them out as much as possible. That's why we get a lot of these subpar shows.
Well, yeah, I think in addition to the factory aspect, just budgeting aspects too. You know, it's like
Yeah,
you got to pump a lot of money into things, and they have had things they pumped a lot of money into that bombed miserably.
yeah,
Um, and that's going to be a factor too. It's just like if they can't throw money at it and make it work, like what can they do? Is this the kind of the end of it? You know, I mean they've
yeah,
already said they're going to have less shows, and that they're not going to have like the big tier characters be in shows, things like that. I guess.
yeah,
But at the same time, don't they have like 4 movies coming out next year?
yeah. I think. Well, I mean, are you including Fantastic Four, or is that for next year?
No, Fantastic Four is this year. So wait,
Okay, so you're saying 2026.
2026?
Yeah. Well, they have Doomsday. They have I don't know what the fuck else. But I was going to ask you too. Did you include Moon Knight when you were listing?
I did say Moon Knight. Yeah. So
Oh, okay, okay.
uh, um, so it looks like it's just Spider-Man and Doomsday next year, but there are 2 other placeholder dates. But I guess there's nothing on them right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe I'm wrong.
It's all good. But I just like to me, I look at all these Disney Plus shows that we've listed, and the only one that really stood out was like X-Men 97. That was like the oh my god, this is amazing. Let's watch some more of this. I actually enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't think you liked it less than I did. I liked WandaVision a lot when it came out. I liked Agatha all along as well. But otherwise, quite
Loki
often,
season 2.
what's that?
Loki season 2, man.
Oh yeah. Loki season 2 was pretty good too. Yeah, I mean Loki season 1 even had some good
Yeah.
points as well. But I'd say more than half of this stuff, it's almost kind of felt like a chore for us to like watch it and be like, oh, we're gonna cover this now. Okay, great. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I also think that I'm definitely suffering from, quote unquote, suffering from like the high quality that we've had fairly recently. And I've mentioned this before. Like we just had Andor, and that was just fantastic.
Right.
And just other things of that caliber, just kind of make other things pale in comparison.
Right. Yeah. You watch Andor and then you're like, oh, I have to go watch this. It's kind of similar to like when The Dark Knight came out, and then right after that was X-Men Origins Wolverine, and you're like, oh, what am I doing here? You know?
I still stand that it has a great opening scene.
Yeah. I mean, there's redeemable chunks in all this stuff, and right at the 10-minute mark, I can bring it back to Ironheart, which is even in this show that kind of made me cringe with some of its dialogue, some of its choices. There's still things to be salvaged from this show.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually started watching the 4th episode. I'm almost towards the end of it here, and I'm kind of liking the show more now.
Yeah. There's another show that we're kind of on the fence of covering, Revival, which is on Sci-Fi Channel. It's also on Peacock, and we were both kind of like, "Oh, this isn't as good as we'd like it to be." And then you were saying that by the second episode, you were enjoying it more.
Yeah,
And
and the third, I'm still enjoying it more too. So it's maybe I just have a rough time acclimating to these things, or maybe the pilots were rough. I don't know, but like they are. It could just be that they're the more I'm exposed to it, the more opportunities they have to kind of be in something. And, and they have.
Yeah, I think with all of these shows, these kind of subpar shows, what happens is the pilot, they always want to be like real splashy and be like, look, this character's got this attitude and they act like this. And there's a ton of exposition dump usually in a pilot episode of a comic book show. And then if there's some kind of thing to build off of, and then they do, you're like, oh, okay, that's better than I expected. But if there's nothing to build off of, it's just like, oh, this was a waste. I mean, like I think of What If, I think of She-Hulk. I actually wasn't really into Moon Knight either, and I'm like, okay, they just didn't really have anything to begin with. This
Yeah,
show, yeah, go ahead.
I knew Moon Knight was going downhill as soon as they introduced Mr. Knight, and it was completely unlike I expected it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, so then, Brian, let me ask you this: what would you say in this show they can mine, they can work with that is good?
okay, so I have read exceedingly few comics with Riri Williams in them, but one of
Yeah.
the few things I do know is that in the comics she has an AI that is Tony Stark. Well, is based on Tony Stark because they had actually met and interacted at some point. And he was gone at the time, or I don't remember where he actually was.
So it's after Civil War II. Him and Carol Danvers are fighting, and Carol loses her shit and just like annihilates him. He's pretty much dead, but he's like on life support, and that's why he was gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I really liked, obviously they were not going to have Robert Downey Jr. in the show be an AI here, but I really liked the angle they took with having her dead best friend be the AI. I find that relationship that they have there and how they're, you know, acclimating to each other, and even though something's kind of weird because it's, you know, it's not actually her, and they're not really sure how she's so much like the friend, and how she kind of knows things that she shouldn't know necessarily.
Right.
I think that's a great angle here. I also think that I'm now sort of enjoying the inclusion of I mean, spoilers here, of Ezekiel Stane. I think they have a really good setup for him as a villain here.
Yeah.
In addition to what we're expecting to get out of the Hood, which, I mean, I'm pretty sure we can just safely say/assume that we're going to see Mephisto, or in episodes 4, 5, or 6.
Right.
So I think, I don't know, they're setting this up in a way better way than I expected. There are still some things that kind of annoy me about the show. I don't like how quickly everything happens. It's like, oh yeah, you got to rebuild your suit by tonight, or you have to, and then she's gonna travel to the suburbs and do all this stuff, and like, oh, we're gonna plan this heist out, but it seems like they kind of go and wing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like, part of that bothers me. I guess I don't know why.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that they're all like experts in whatever field they're in, but something about how quickly things are happening, like maybe what 2-3 days have passed in the show.
Right. Right.
That feels a little off to me, which is, I know, is a really stupid nitpick, but yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No. I mean, everything that you said, I agree with, and I'd like to talk about more. I'm about to add some controversial grievances to the show as well, but I have to preface this very carefully. I have to like get this thread the needle, like go right through the eye of the needle. But like, I think my daughter said it best. She said that Disney kind of panders to certain demographics. Like, I guess they want to seem inclusive, but the way that they do it is so like over the top and fake that it's almost kind of insulting to the demographic that they're trying to appeal to, right? Like, I don't know how to phrase this. Okay, like I've seen many shows where the main cast is primarily African American, right?
Yeah.
And they'll make jokes and stuff about being black, but like there's a part in the first episode where the guy, like Riri's friend, walks in and he's like, "What's up, black people?" And then like, you know, there's just like so many of these jokes and stuff where it's like we have to admit that we're like talking about black people. It's not like it's just that we're following black people and they're just having regular conversations. It has to be this thing that
it's like whitewashed for a white audience potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. I didn't do enough research. I didn't see if who the creator of the show is, and I think it's very possible that they're an African American person as well. But I just feel like, oh yeah, it's an African American woman right here. Yeah.
You're right.
Chinaka Hodge.
There's something like that feels very sanitized about it, I guess.
Right. Exactly. And so it just doesn't feel natural, right? And like my daughter Pepper, she hasn't really identified her sexuality or anything yet, but she hangs out with like a lot of transgender people and gay people. And she's 14, right? And she said that like the way that they're portrayed by like Disney and stuff is always they're like, oh, here's our gay cause and we're gay and here's this suffering. And then she said that when she hangs out with them in person, it's like that's not necessarily like the primary thing that they talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it's not like this.
it's like they make it their entire identity instead of just making
Right.
the characters that happen to be that.
Right. And so, yeah, God, this feels like we're stepping on a landmine here, but like the fact that like the Hood's team, it has like two transgender characters on that team, and it's like I know transgender people exist and stuff like that, but it's just like I feel like it's like they're like overdoing it too much on these Disney Plus shows, where it's like you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, and maybe even trying to evoke a reaction from the other side of the audience that's against that stuff.
Yeah,
You know?
on one hand, yeah, because I do feel like when we were growing up, shows were predominantly I guess maybe I wasn't exposed to them. I mean, shows were either black or white or whatever race it was. There wasn't that much mixing of things, and I understand that's a great thing. And like we don't want to be exclusive to anything like that, but
Right.
it does often feel like every single property has to insert some other race or whatever, and it sometimes feels unnatural, I guess. And
Right.
and it says
Right.
so
Sorry.
there is a predominantly a black and Latin cast in the show, but here it does feel like the transgender characters may be that kind of token inclusion in a way. And I kind of see that. I don't totally agree with you that these characters are all about that they're transgender. Like I don't think they even mentioned that they are. I mean, you can clearly tell that the one I don't remember their
Slug.
Slug. The
Slug.
one she has like green hair.
Yeah.
You can tell that she is something. I guess by looking at her. But I still like you said there were two transgender characters over text to me. I'm like, really? I didn't even notice. So
Yeah. The other.
Oh, go ahead.
No, there's like I think they call them the blood twins or whatever, and one of the blood twins.
But I don't feel like they're like super over the top. Like I'm transgender. Look at me. I'm waving my flag.
Right. Yes. You're right, and I think you're like a little bit more mature than I am too. Like with this stuff, it's like because it just becomes so like sanitized and like so generic the way they make everything in general that it just feels fake, right? And with this group, with the Hoods group, for instance, there's one part where they talk about like their motivations, like what are you going to do with your money when you get your money? And Slug says that they're going to open up like a 4-star Michelin restaurant, right? And then this other character, Clown, who I think is just an African American woman, she says, oh, I'm going to open up a school. And I kind of groaned, but luckily the show kind of saved itself because she was like, that's my mom's washing machine. She's like, I'm going to open up a school and use it as a laundry, a money laundering cover,
Yeah.
So like, it kind of works. But when you look at the Hood in the comics, the Hood is like a pretty despicable guy who really just cares about making more criminal power, like getting more criminal power for himself.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, you go. You finish.
No, I'm just saying that like there's nothing kind of noble about him. And in Marvel Comics, there's a lot of criminals that are just literally they just want money, they just want power. They're not like Robin Hood taking on corporations and stuff. They're just criminals,
So I think I understand how they got to this here is that they have Riri, who is a heroic character, getting involved in a criminal element. They had to portray this as more of a Robin Hood-esque group in order to allow for her inclusion in this story, in this gang. If they were flat out evil and all that, like it wouldn't work. It would be a bad look for the character, and it would be a bad look for Disney. And I still agree that this does feel like a very sanitized show. It does not feel real or anything like that. I also thought it was really weird how we didn't see a cop throughout the first 2 episodes. Like we finally saw them. I remember thinking like they're just robbing shit and like no one's doing or saying anything about it. Like,
Right.
But that's why. So I think this show had sort of a rough insertion point, but once they got over that hump and you just kind of accepted it, it's a little bit better than I initially thought so far.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard when I had read about it, I actually read that both this show and Revival were pretty good prior to watching them. I watched the first episode of this. I watched the first episode of Revival, and I both like, I don't know. But for this show, I had heard that the entry point was a little rougher and the ending's a little rougher, but the middle is kind of solid. And I'm so far agreeing with that. I have because I haven't finished the show yet.
Yeah. Well, I think what makes the entry point difficult is okay. Just in general, with all Marvel things, all MCU things, it's like they're trying to get the characters to be like they are in the comics in a certain way, and you have this whole universe that this takes place in, and to kind of force it in, it feels unnatural sometimes. Like Riri is going to MIT in the beginning of this show. She's been to Wakanda. She's like worked with Wakandan technology to like improve her suit and stuff. And yet she still feels this need to make her own version of the Tony Stark armor.
So
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No.
And I forgot this, but Shuri kept that suit from Wakanda Forever. They wouldn't let her take it because it had vibranium in it. So she did come back empty-handed. And I did have to look that up. I'm like, what happened to that other suit? Because that looked way nicer.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm really glad that you explained that to me because that makes a lot more sense then.
But it felt very rushed for her to get there and to get kicked out of MIT immediately and then to immediately fall into this gang. Her motivations seem kind of suspect, I guess. Like she's just looking to because she can. But so I see that as a flaw, but they're already addressing that she's going to realize that's a flaw. And I think that's part of the narrative here that I think is going to pan out in a positive way by the end of the show.
Okay. I agree with you. I think that, it is like a problem that the character's going to have to deal with. It's like her own internal problem that she's going to have a realization about.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with you on that. But I think that like what just kind of doesn't make sense to me is she has like a fucking AI that essentially thinks it's a person and like can interact with her. And it's like, if you want to have some kind of iconic thing, you have it right there. Like Tony Stark wasn't even able to make Jarvis or anything like that, like what she has right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that maybe that could be part of some kind of resolution in this. There that she can become iconic from that. But I'm not sure they'll go that route. Like I feel like at this point, I'm maybe 75% away through the 4th episode, and there's 2 more to go. Like there's way too many things to resolve otherwise. So I don't think that will happen here. But maybe.
No, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, did you like the way that they explained why she wants to make her own Iron Man suit? Like, did you like her justification for that?
Because she can. That's what her justification was, and I didn't like it. But I see that as a character flaw for her to overcome. She needs to find some kind of noble cause there. It's almost like similar to how Spider-Man was just kind of doing things for himself until he didn't stop that criminal, and until that criminal killed his uncle, and then he learned he took the great power and great responsibility to heart. I think that's kind of what's going on here, and I think she's going to come out being a stronger character afterwards. And I also I have to preface that by saying I thought her inclusion in Wakanda Forever was not great. It shouldn't have been a part of that movie. It made it feel weird. I think that Wakanda Forever would have been better without her. and
Mm-hmm.
not and that's not a detriment to like the actress or the character and like that. I just think it felt out of place, the scenes that she was in that movie, because that movie was like so heavy with like grief that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they could have just gone there, gone the route of just being a super serious movie, and I don't think they needed to add the character there, but at the same time, it's like, could you have this show and have it start the same way if you didn't do that? Do you have the show at all if have you not introduced her in a larger capacity? And we know we weren't
Mm-hmm.
going to get her in an Iron Man movie because Tony Stark was dead at the time.
Right. Well, okay. Well, a few things, right? Like she does say that. She says that it's because she can. She often uses the word iconic to say like what she wants to make. She wants to make something iconic. She says that a lot. And I agree with the Spider-Man comparison, but there is a part where she's talking to, I think, Natalie, or maybe it's her friend, the guy that gives her the mixtape, and she says that like
By the way, that's
her
Natalie's mother, if you didn't realize, because I didn't.
oh right no yeah, but like she says that the stepfather really was into Tony Stark, and then she explains why the stepfather was into Tony Stark, because she said that he was like a mechanic who was like working on like aviation stuff, and that's the stepfather wishes he was working on aviation. So it was always kind of like the stepfather wanted to be like Tony Stark or admired him, and that kind of got passed down to her.
Yeah, no. So that connection I liked. That was a nice
Yeah.
way of explaining around how she doesn't actually know Tony Stark, and it's to honor her deceased father, and then the whole emotional level of the AI being Natalie, kind of was a really smart choice that works really well to balance out the fact that they couldn't use Tony Stark. That may even be better in a way.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Iron Man in the room for a second too, right? Because Riri Williams was created by Brian Michael Bendis, right? And
Really,
Brian Mike.
what is that?
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing about Bendis, right? So Bendis is like a middle-aged white bald man, right? He makes Riri Williams, and he also makes a character for DC called Naomi when he goes over to DC, right? Yeah. Naomi actually had her own CW show too. Yeah. And it's funny because the actress that plays Natalie looks like Naomi in the comics. But I think you know this, Brian, but our viewers might not, that Bendis has like 2 African-American daughters. Okay. And so when he made these characters, he wanted to have characters that his children could connect to or associate with, right? Yeah. And I think that both characters get a lot of flack because, so much of the comics fan base kind of borders on racism and sexism and stuff like that, and doesn't like new things. But also they can kind of spot when like something feels like it's insincere or disgenuine, right? And there's always been this thing where people like they always love Miles Morales, which Bendis created as well.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people like Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. But that doesn't transfer over to Riri Williams as well as it does for the other 2.
Yeah, because I don't, like I said, I barely read anything with Riri in a kind of comic book at all.
Yeah.
And I do think there's definitely something to say about the newer character creation sort of having that seemingly forced inclusion with other with other races and minorities and all that, things like that. Really, their comic heroes for the longest time were predominantly white, and there are obviously some really long-standing ones. Storm, Black Panther, Blade,
Falcon,
probably plenty more that we don't need to name everybody, and I think people are accepting of those because they're long-standing here. But I think with a lot of the newer created characters, they focused a lot more on specific races, a lot more female characters, legacy characters, things like that. And I think some older fans just can't accept that kind of thing.
Right.
Because it really does seem like they're trying to, even like we talked about in the beginning, how Disney got Marvel and Star Wars to kind of balance out their image of being a female-centric brand. It's almost like Marvel and DC have done that with other characters to balance out the whiteness.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. And like I like Riri in the comics, and there's quite a few good Riri issues that are in the Iron Man comic because that's where she first shows up, and she
Yeah,
does interact with Tony before he is taken off the board, essentially, right?
yeah,
And I think Bendis does a good job writing her. Um, the whole thing with like I do believe it's her stepfather and her friend do get killed in a drive-by, but I think it's at a picnic and they get killed.
okay.
That's all from the comics, not in the show, you know. Um, and then like I don't really have a problem with her. It's just that like to make her be the main character of a TV show, I think that's just asking for a lot.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's a small, less known character. I don't think they could have brought her in. I mean, they're obviously not bringing her in a Iron Man movie because there aren't going to be any more. I think it makes sense to do it this way, and I think that they're purposely showing the flawed character so she has a growth arc like that. Plain
Yeah,
and simple. That's really what it is. Anything she's doing here that seems kind of weird or forced or like that, that's so she can grow out of it and improve and get on her heroic uh, place.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. There's still 3 more episodes left, but we should. Well, I wanted to bring up one other point too. Is that right when Riri was starting to make her name in the comics, and Tony was taken off the board, Victor Von Doom was Iron Man as well. So
Superior,
it's kind of funny. What's that?
Superior Iron Man, right?
Right, right. So you had. Well, no, I think Superior Iron Man was Tony, but he was like inverted. His personality was inverted.
Maybe that was first, but then I thought they continued it with Doom.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
name.
That's yeah. It might have had some other name too, but whatever it is, it's like Doom becomes Iron Man for a little bit for some weird reason, and it's just weird that like right now in the movies and the TV shows we kind of have that same kind of thing where it's like Robert Downey Jr. is Doctor Doom now. You know, it's this weird kind of coincidence.
And then in the comics, Doctor Doom is the Sorcerer Supreme.
Right now, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. Just kind of keeps going in circles. But we should talk about the villain of this show. We should talk about the Hood. So, what's your experience with the Hood in comics?
I've read a decent amount with the Hood here. I'm probably most familiar with him as being a one-cost card in Marvel Snap, though.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, yeah,
Summons a demon.
I did think it was a weird connection to have this be the villain here. But and I also as soon as I saw the guy, I'm like, oh, it's Noah from Transformers.
Right, right, right.
He's falling down a little bit. You're joining GI Joe, man.
Yeah.
But I kind of I'm actually liking the show more than I let on.
Yeah.
Previously here. So it's weird to have a magic mystical based villain with a technology hero, but I mean maybe that's a better way of than having the you know how every hero has to start out with like the opposite. They're in like moral opposite with the same powers in a way. And I think we still may sort of get that with Ezekiel as well, but I think it's not as weird as I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things in Marvel is when you have a bunch of criminals just kind of hanging out in the bar with no name, or like, they're just like on a team to go pull off a heist. And you might have like a magic person and a person from the future and then a mutant. Like they're all on the same team, but they're not the same kind of power source. And I think they're doing that a little bit, except you have a person in an Iron Man suit and you have a person with a crazy fucking demon cloak, right? And the actor that plays him that you mentioned from Rise of the Beasts or whatever, that's Anthony Ramos.
Yes.
And I saw him for the first time in Hamilton, and my family and I, we actually love the musical Hamilton on Disney Plus too. And I just think he's a really charismatic actor. What he does really well in this show is he always kind of goes low when everyone else is going high. Like, there might be like a tense situation where people are arguing with each other, or they're getting on each other's cases, and he's always like very chill, at least up until the third episode. He starts murdering people, like left and right.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, I don't mind the idea that they have that to cut. Like we said, there is that sort of Robin Hood. I keep saying, I don't know why, Robin Hood.
Yes.
Kind of idea here, but they're not quite painting the. I mean, to me these days, if you say billionaire, I'm automatically going to think they're an asshole. So,
right.
They couldn't have that, but I feel like they could have gone the extra mile with pointing out what was wrong and why they're taking from these people.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a minor nitpick.
No, I like they have this kind of agenda against these billionaires. Like, there's that one woman that controls Tunnel, and Tunnel's this crazy kind of system underneath Chicago where like your car drops down and you get like blasted through Chicago underground. It's cool. It's funny.
It looks a little too futuristic, but yeah.
Right. Well, it kind of looks like what they have in Wakanda. Like when Black Panther and Killmonger are fighting in the end of the first Wakanda.
Yeah.
It looks like that, which is kind of cool. It's cool world building because it shows like maybe Wakanda has been influencing the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
But then I think that the botany guy who they go after in the third episode, his thing is also just like a regular word, but like just take out the vowels or whatever. Like there's tunnel for the first one, and the other one is like mushroom, but it's like MSHRM or something.
It's like it was like no, it wasn't helium or
it's something
with an H.
Right, it is something very similar to that. Right. But even that guy was kind of intriguing because they were saying that they couldn't find any dirt on him, and you wonder. There's something with Parker. Maybe they reveal this in the fourth episode that you've watched, but there's something to where like his friend is trying to talk him out of the next heist because it's so complicated. And then I think Parker, the Hood, sees the mayor saying something on TV, and that kind of spurs him on to carry out the hit.
Yeah, I do believe. Oh, first of all, I have to mention that the cousin, is it Joe?
Let's see. I got
the guy.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He was the cousin. For the first maybe 15, 20 minutes of the show, I'm like, oh my God, Scorpion! And then I realized it was not Scorpion.
Yes. That would have been awesome.
That would have been kind of a cool little thing there, but I mean, I think he might be in some other dimension now or something. Technically.
Probably.
So,
right.
We may not see him again.
Right.
But I forgot where I was going with that.
I'm sorry. I'm all over the map.
No, I was talking. I interrupted myself, so it's my fault.
No, it's okay. I was talking about like the motivation for the Hood, because the Hood seems to have some kind of connection to the mayor.
Yes, it does seem like they had some kind of plan to hit these 4 different places, and there is some kind of overall goal with it, though it hasn't been revealed yet. Like maybe they're stealing parts of something together in some fashion, but I don't know if it's parts. I don't know what they're exactly doing, but they did say they had 4 jobs and would lead to something big. So I think there is some kind of connection somehow to it, and this hasn't been revealed to us yet.
Do you think it'd be something as stupid as like they're making a pentagram, and those are like 4 of the 5 parts of the star?
And they're gonna sell it.
Right. That's what I'm kind of getting at. It's like, yeah, he'll take over Chicago.
Seriously, I think that is really plausible here. I don't think we're fantasy booking. I think that might actually be something.
Right. Well, okay, so that brings up kind of the last point I wanted to make. You can also add more if you want to, but like, there's been so many rumors about Sacha Baron Cohen being in this show as Mephisto. There's like CGI made art. There's like stuff where they do this shit now where they're like, oh, here's a leak, but it's just fucking AI, and they just make it look like it's like found like captured footage, Yeah.
It's way too easy to be fooled these days, unfortunately.
Right.
But yeah, it seems like that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna laugh if it doesn't, and we got fooled.
Again by Mephisto. Yeah, yeah. Is there
Um,
a Mephisto snap card?
no, there's not.
Oh,
Very
there you
surprised.
go.
They have so many like weird ass characters I've never heard of
Yep.
before.
Yep.
I had to look up what was a recent one I got? Toxie Doxy. I'm like,
Brian.
what the fuck
I,
is this?
Brian, I was literally gonna be like, I saw this character Toxie Doxy, and you just said it. I'm like, who is that? What the fuck is she from?
Yeah. I I had looked it up and I already forgot it. So it's not a
Yeah,
very good part in the game either. I'll say that. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, there's obviously tons and tons of characters around, and they gotta mine something.
Well, here's my last question to you, though. If we're mining something, if we're gonna use it, like bringing Mephisto into this show, obviously it's just gonna be that like he has a small part at the end. Like maybe the hood is working for him. That's where he gets the cloak from. Like there's not gonna be more to him than that. But having someone like Sacha Baron Cohen play him in the MCU, does that add anything? Does that make anything better? Like, could they go off in like a Midnight Suns direction? What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly think that's the entry point. Probably is they're probably going to go some Midnight Suns route. They keep canceling, moving back Blade, but this show is a bridge to get Riri involved in the Young Avengers,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I don't know if they're still doing or not. I'm not sure. And I think that the best place to use Mephisto would be a Midnight Suns movie, which I
Mm,
don't know like they need to kind of relaunch Ghost Rider for that. I think like we have Moon
right.
Knight. Um, we sort of have Blade. I mean, like Blade was in the end of Eternals, and I don't remember if they canceled it or it's just shelved. I have no idea. Um,
Yeah.
but
Doctor Strange gets looped in with the Midnight Suns too
Doctor
often.
Strange could work very well there too.
Hmm.
But they need at least four characters. I guess I think for Midnight
Hmm.
Suns. Although
Hmm.
I think originally there was only really three. Like it was Blade, Ghost Rider, and um, somebody else that I can't remember.
No, like the Midnight Suns, the original one, there was the teams. There was Night Stalkers, which had like Blade and Hannibal King, which Ryan Reynolds played him in Blade
Yeah,
Trinity, and then one other guy who's like the descendant of Dracula. It was kind of like a Castlevania kind of thing. Then there
yeah.
was Morbius was in the Midnight Suns.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. I don't
uh,
know what to do about that.
yeah, right. And then like Ghost Rider was Danny Ketch, but then Johnny Blaze was also like helping him too.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were all together. And then there was also a thing called the Book of Darkhold too, which that was all like the Midnight Sun stuff when it first came out. I was actually like really into that when it first came
Yeah,
out.
there was some. There was. I think the character I was trying to think of was like a female character that had the dark hold, but I don't remember her name.
Oh yeah, I don't remember any of the members of that team, but like I know that like Lilith was the main big bad in that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
yeah. But let's address like two things that you said. Riri is a member of the Champions, and I think as far as what Marvel's doing now, they're going to make the Champions the Young Avengers. Like it's going to be
I think
called Champions now.
it's gonna be some kind of hybrid of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be a show as far as I know now, not a movie.
Oh, it is. I haven't heard that.
That's what I heard. Yeah, and so you could have like Kamala Khan, and you could have Kate Bishop, and you could have Riri, and then you could have Wiccan and Speed and stuff.
It
Go ahead.
makes sense because most of these characters' most prominent roles are all in TV shows. So that does make sense.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I think it'd be cool if there was like a Mephisto Midnight Suns thing, and that's just kind of this is just sort of pushing him into that direction. Who knows if he's gonna be on the fucking show? And I'm cool with a Young Avengers / Champions thing. I'd much rather it be a big movie, but I don't know. I guess you just gotta take what you can get at this
See, the
point.
problem is like what got me hooked in Young Avengers was that first arc, where you didn't know who anybody was necessarily. You didn't know their origin stories, all that, and really, it's really based. And it's spoiler alert here for anyone that hasn't read a 20-year-old comic. Um, that the Iron Man character was a younger version of Kang, and they kind of got screwed over with that character at this point. They either
Right.
whatever you want to say about it. I don't. I think if we ever see Kang again, it's going to be a very small role played by another actor that's going to wrap it up in a very short fashion.
Right.
But the big like reveal and point of Young Avengers. That first arc was that Iron Lad was a young Kang.
Yeah. Man, those are the good old days, man. I remember getting comics. I still lived on Staten Island, and we would go get that stuff. Oh, so good, so good. Yeah. So, is there anything else that you want to say about these first 3 episodes of Ironheart at this point, or?
No, I think I'm pretty good here.
Okay. We'll do a more like nuanced episode by episode review for the next 3. But yeah, and then we'll see if we cover Revival too. But if you guys enjoyed this episode, thank you so much for sticking around. Listen to me and Brian talk. Let us know if you like the show, if you don't like the show. And I guess we'll be back next week. And we got Superman coming out soon and Fantastic Four. So, we'll catch you guys next time. Boink.